I'm about to say something that's going to sound arrogant to some of you, but it's true. Most future millionaires don't look ambitious. They look annoying, quiet, damn near boring, and sometimes even a little strange. They're not loud. They're not motivational post addicts. They're not posting grind quotes or talking about manifesting abundance between DoorDash orders. In fact, if you lined up a room of future millionaires and a room of people trying to get rich, you'd probably bet on the wrong group. Because wealth doesn't start with confidence. It starts with behavior. And the behaviors that actually predict wealth are usually the ones people laugh at, misunderstand, or ignore. So by the end of this video, I'm breaking down 10 weird behaviors that quietly indicate someone is on track to become a future millionaire. Not because they're lucky, but because they're wired differently. And fair warning, if you recognize yourself in more than a few of these, you're probably ahead of schedule. If none of these sound like you, this video might sting a little. That's okay. Sting means signal. Let's get into it. Number 1, they care more about optionality than status. Now, for starters, this one right here literally separates almost everyone. Most people think wealth is about looking successful. Future millionaires think wealth is about not being trapped. That's why their decisions feel boring. They don't upgrade their lifestyle the second their income bumps up. They don't rush to reward themselves every time money comes in. They don't let one good year convince them they're untouchable. Instead, they ask a different question than almost everyone else. What does this buy me? Applause or options? Options mean being able to say no to bad jobs, walking away from toxic situations, taking smart risks without panic, letting time work instead of rushing outcomes. Status, on the other hand, is fragile. It's expensive to maintain, and once you upgrade, you're locked into feeding it. That's why future millionaires often delay visible success. They're not broke, they're strategic. They're stacking flexibility quietly while everyone else is stacking bills loudly. And here's the part that really messes with people's heads. The moment optionality is secured, status becomes irrelevant because the richest flex isn't what you drive. It's what you can walk away from without fear. And once someone understands that freedom beats applause every time, they stop rushing decisions just to feel like they're making progress. Behavior number 2. They wait way longer than feels comfortable. Look, I'll just be honest. This behavior makes future millionaires look straight up lazy to impatient people. Because in a world addicted to speed, waiting feels like losing. Everyone else is rushing to buy, rushing to invest, rushing to upgrade, rushing to do something just to feel productive. Future millionaires do the opposite. They wait until the decision feels almost boring. Not because they're scared, but because they understand something most people don't. Urgency is rarely neutral. Someone always benefits when you rush. Sales benefit from urgency. Trends benefit from urgency. Bad decisions love urgency, so they sit with choices longer than feels socially acceptable. They let emotions cool off. They wait for the second thought, and then the third. If a decision still makes sense, after excitement wears off, after fear fades, after nobody's watching, then they move. This is why they miss fewer landmines. This is why they don't end up over-leveraged. This is why they don't need constant bailouts from their past selves. Waiting filters out impulse. Waiting exposes weak ideas. Waiting protects capital. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people aren't impatient because time is valuable. They're impatient because they're insecure. They want progress they can see. They want movement they can announce. They want reassurance they're on the right track. Future millionaires don't need the reassurance. They trust their process long before it produces applause. They know wealth isn't built by moving fast. It's built by moving correctly and surviving long enough for time to do the heavy lifting. And once someone learns how to wait without panicking, they start obsessing over something most people find painfully boring, the numbers that actually decide whether you survive or fold. Behavior number 3, they track boring numbers obsessively. All right, check this out, because this is where future millionaires lose most people. Nothing kills a vibe faster than spreadsheets. While everyone else is talking about returns, predictions, and what if this 10 times, future millionaires are quietly tracking numbers that sound painfully unsexy, but decide everything. They know you don't go broke because an investment dips. You go broke because cash flow snaps. So they track things like how much money comes in every month, reliably, how much goes out, whether they like it or not, how long they could survive if income paused tomorrow, which expenses are fixed, which ones are optional, Which ones quietly grow when nobody's watching? This isn't obsession, it's awareness. Because here's the truth most people learn too late. Surprises are only shocking when you weren't paying attention. Future millionaires don't get blindsided often. Not because life is kinder to them, but because they've already rehearsed the math. They know their burn rate. They know their margin of error. They know how much volatility their lifestyle can actually absorb. So when something breaks, when income dips, when the market gets weird, it's uncomfortable, not catastrophic. Meanwhile, most people are flying blind. They feel fine until suddenly they're not. They assume things will work out until the math disagrees. And here's the quiet advantage this creates. Tracking boring numbers removes emotion from decisions. When you know your runway, you don't panic. When you know your margin, you don't overreact. When you know your floor, you don't make desperate moves. Future millionaires don't guess their way through uncertainty, they measure it. That's why they can stay calm when others spiral. That's why they can invest when others freeze. That's why stability shows up before wealth ever does. Because confidence doesn't come from hype. It comes from knowing your numbers won't betray you. And once someone has that level of clarity over their finances, they stop caring what other people think about their decisions. Because opinions don't pay bills, and math doesn't lie. Behavior number 4. They care less about opinions as they get older. Let's be real. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens after enough bad advice almost costs them everything. Early on, most people crowdsource their financial decisions. They ask friends. They ask family. They ask coworkers who make the same money and complain about the same bills. Future millionaires eventually notice something uncomfortable. Most advice isn't wisdom. It's fear wearing a helpful costume. People don't tell you what's optimal. They tell you what would make them feel safe. So over time, future millionaires start subtracting noise. They stop explaining why they live below their means. They stop defending why they're not upgrading yet. They stop arguing with people who confuse confidence with competence. Not because they think they're better, but because they understand incentives. Someone who hates their job will discourage risk. Someone drowning in debt will mock discipline. Someone stuck will resent patience. So they go quiet. They let silence protect their strategy. They let results speak later. This is why future millionaires often seem detached. They don't overshare plans. They don't need applause. They don't need agreement. They've learned that the loudest critics usually have the least skin in the game. And once opinions stop influencing decisions, something powerful happens. They start spending money in ways that don't make sense to anyone else. Which brings us to the next weird behavior. One that makes people say, I don't get how you'll spend money on that, but not on this. And that's exactly the point. Behavior number 5. They spend aggressively, but only on very specific things. This is where future millionaires completely break people's brains. Because from the outside, their spending looks inconsistent. They'll overthink a $60 dinner. They'll hesitate on a new phone. They'll drive the same car for years. But then, out of nowhere, they'll drop serious money on something that doesn't look impressive at all. A course, a tool, a coach, a system, a piece of software that nobody notices. And people immediately say, that's irresponsible. No, it's calculated. Future millionaires don't spend to feel good. They spend to remove friction. They ask questions most people never do. Will this save me time every week? Will this reduce future stress? Will this increase my earnings ceiling? Will this compound without my constant attention? If the answer is yes, price becomes secondary. This is why they invest in skills before status, why they'll pay to automate before they upgrade aesthetics, why they treat health like infrastructure, not luxury. Because they understand a brutal truth. The most expensive things in life are the ones that quietly drain your energy. Bad systems, bad habits, bad health, bad environments, so they're ruthless about cutting those costs early, even if it looks excessive at the time. And here's the part people miss. They don't see spending as a reward. They see it as leverage. Every dollar they spend is expected to come back with friends. If it doesn't, they don't buy it. And once you start spending this way, something uncomfortable happens. You can't lie to yourself anymore, which leads directly into the next behavior. The one that makes future millionaires brutally honest in ways most people avoid at all costs. Behavior number 6. They're uncomfortably honest with themselves. All right, pay attention, because this is where the gap between future millionaires and everyone else becomes almost impossible to ignore. Because most people don't fail financially due to lack of information. They fail because they lie to themselves. Gently, consistently, and convincingly. Future millionaires don't do that. They don't sugarcoat bad habits. They don't rebrand poor decisions as learning experiences forever. They don't protect their ego at the expense of their future. If something isn't working, they don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They ask, "What am I doing that's causing this?" That question is uncomfortable. It removes excuses, it kills victim narratives, and it puts responsibility exactly where it belongs. They don't say, "I'm just bad with money." They say, "My system is broken." They don't say, "I don't have time." They say, "I'm choosing comfort over progress." They don't say, "I'll start when things calm down." They say, "I'm avoiding discomfort." This level of self-honesty feels brutal at first, but it creates momentum fast. Because once you stop lying to yourself, problems become fixable, patterns become obvious, and progress becomes measurable. Future millionaires treat life like a feedback loop. If something breaks, they assume the input needs adjusting. No drama, no blame, no waiting for motivation, just data, correction, repeat. And once you combine that level of honesty with discipline, you naturally stop relying on goals to carry you forward. Which brings us to the next behavior, one that replaces motivation entirely with systems that run whether you feel like it or not. Behavior number 7, they think in systems, not goals. Seriously, this is where future millionaires completely detach from motivation culture. Most people live their financial lives goal to goal. I want to make more. I want to be rich. I want financial freedom. Future millionaires see goals for what they are: temporary emotional fuel. Goals feel good to say. Systems actually change outcomes. A goal needs willpower. A system runs even when willpower disappears. So instead of obsessing over outcomes they can't fully control, future millionaires obsess over inputs they can control. They build automatic transfers instead of relying on discipline, default investments instead of timing it, boring routines instead of heroic effort. They don't wake up asking, "Do I feel motivated today?" They wake up knowing money will move whether they feel inspired or not. This is why their progress looks slow, until suddenly it isn't. Systems create silent consistency, and consistency compounds in ways motivation never will. This mindset also protects them from emotional mistakes. When markets drop, the system keeps buying. When income spikes, the system allocates automatically. When life gets busy, the system doesn't care. They understand something most people never internalize. The future belongs to whoever removes themselves from the equation the fastest. The less you rely on mood, timing, or energy, the more predictable your results become. That's why future millionaires don't talk about discipline as a personality trait. They design environments where discipline is optional. And once systems are in place, they start thinking about the downside more than the upside. Which brings us to the next behavior, one that makes them look pessimistic, but actually keeps them alive when others blow up. Behavior number 8, they prepare for downsides more than upsides. Now, I need you to understand something clearly. This behavior makes future millionaires sound negative to optimistic people. They're not. They're just realistic. Most people spend their time imagining what success will look like: the bigger house, the higher income, the freedom. Future millionaires spend more time asking a different question: what could break this? Not in a paranoid way, in a responsible way. They don't assume things will go perfectly. They assume life will interrupt them, because it always does. Income dips, markets crash, health issues pop up, opportunities stall, plans change. So instead of being shocked when things go wrong, they plan for it in advance. They build buffers before they build luxuries. They diversify income before they diversify opinions. They make sure one bad month doesn't undo 5 good years. This is why they don't overextend. Why they don't max leverage just because it's available. Why they don't confuse optimism with immunity. They understand something most people don't learn until it's too late. Survival comes before growth. Always. If you can't survive volatility, returns don't matter. If you can't absorb stress, strategy doesn't matter. If one mistake can wipe you out, you're not building wealth. You're gambling with extra steps. Preparing for downside doesn't slow them down. It speeds them up long term. Because while others are recovering, panicking, or starting over, they're still standing, still investing, still moving, still calm. And here's the quiet payoff. When chaos hits, future millionaires don't scramble. They reposition. They see downturns not as disasters, but as environments. and environments can be navigated if you're prepared, which is why over time something strange happens to them emotionally. They stop reacting the way everyone else does, and that leads directly into the next behavior, the one that makes them seem eerily calm when everyone else is losing their mind. Behavior number 9, they become calm where others panic. Now, this one is eerie to watch because honestly, it makes future millionaires feel unsettling to be around during chaos. Markets drop, layoffs hit, rates spike, headlines scream. Everyone else spirals, but future millionaires get quieter. Not because they don't care, not because they're fearless, but because they've already accepted something most people haven't. Volatility is normal. Panic is optional. They've spent years building systems, buffers, and clarity. So when things shake, nothing inside them needs to scramble. They're not glued to their apps refreshing numbers every 5 minutes. They're not reacting to every headline like it's a personal attack. They're not looking for reassurance from people who are equally confused. They zoom out. They recognize patterns instead of moments, cycles instead of emotions, structure instead of noise. And that emotional neutrality becomes an unfair advantage. While others sell to feel relief, they hold. While others freeze waiting for certainty, they keep moving. While others make emotional decisions to stop the pain, they do nothing. And nothing turns out to be the winning move more often than not. This calm isn't luck, it's rehearsed. It comes from knowing their numbers, from trusting their systems, from preparing for downside long before it arrived. They've already asked, what happens if this gets worse? How long can I wait? What breaks first? So when fear shows up, it has nowhere to hook. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't lose money because markets crash. They lose money because their emotions crash first. Future millionaires don't try to predict the storm. They make sure they don't drown in it, which is why they often look boring during the buildup and untouchable on the other side. And that leads directly to the final behavior. The one that filters out almost everyone who wants wealth but can't tolerate how it actually feels while it's being built. Behavior number 10. They stop expecting wealth to feel good. Now I want to explain to you the final filter. Future millionaires understand something most people never accept. Wealth feels boring while it's being built. No fireworks, no applause, no dopamine, just quiet progress. And the people who can tolerate that boredom win. Because they're not chasing a feeling. They're building a result. And that's the pattern. Not talent, not luck, not hustle porn, behavior, quiet, consistent, unsexy, and devastatingly effective. If this video hit a nerve, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm this isn't fluff. Subscribe if you want money content that doesn't lie to you. And comment the words, quietly winning, if you're done chasing vibes and ready to build something real. In the next video, I'm breaking down why most people who look rich today won't be in 10 years, and who quietly replaces them. It's uncomfortable, it's accurate, and most people won't be ready for it. Just click the next video, and I'll see you there.